Scott, thank you so much for taking some time. I know you and I, we were just talking. We go a little back with the Rock and Worship Roadshow, and then also just have worked with you and your artists for a long time as NRT celebrates 23 years of being around. You certainly got a couple years on us, but
yeah,
but yeah, you've been around as well.
Yeah, not a lot. I mean, my company's 25 years this August, and but I've been in town about, I don't know, a couple 30 some odd years. So yeah, I've always enjoyed working with you for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Well, you've got a new book out, and that's why we're talking today, which I thought was really awesome to see. And then as I started getting into it, just love the tone and the approach of you taking your decades of knowledge and experience and giving it to kind of the beginner artist, but also just the beginner, anybody who wants to be involved in Christian music. And one of the things I love that you said right up front in the book is that the Christian music industry is full of people who wanted to be artists but maybe found a career in other corners. And so just right off the bat, Scott, how was it writing this book, and who do you think that audience, who do you hope that audience to really be?
Yeah, so a couple things. I kind of started this book probably over 15 years ago without even knowing I was starting it. So I was giving the same talk to artists over and over again, like new artists, wannabe artists, high school kids, college kids, that and maybe sung in church a couple times, or their parents thought they could sing, and so they'd contact me, and I'm usually one to take a meeting if I can, if at all possible. And so I started giving the same talk, and I started hearing myself say the same thing over and over to some of these people, and a couple times I left a few important pieces out of my talk, and so I turned it into like a presentation using Prezi.com and their presentation platform, and just kind of put it together in a Prezi. And sometimes dads want something to hold on to and look at when you're talking to them, so I'd print it off and I'd let them hold it, and yeah, so I just started giving that talk over and over, and I'd tweak it over the years. I'd go in and be like, well, things have changed a little bit, so I'd change up, but what I realized and what I ended up doing was putting other jobs, while I was talking about, like the record label. Well, here's some of the things that people at record labels do and some of the jobs there. And, I just started, putting all these jobs in all the, in my presentation. And in 2019, David Nasser, David?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So he asked me to give my talk to all of he's got like 70 students that he had like on partial scholarship or scholarship that are part of his worship collective, that they do all of his convocations and his Wednesday night Bible study. They lead worship, but also there are production guys in that group. There are graphic designer guys in that group. It's not just musicians and singers, and it's a lot of behind the scenes guys. And so I went up to Liberty, gave the talk, and I can do it in about an hour. I can do it really fast if you want me to, but I made it about an hour. And when I was done, I was like, hey, I'll stick around for Q&A, but if you got a class to study for, or a test, or if you hadn't had dinner yet or whatever, you're free to go. Well, all of them stayed, and we did about a 3-hour Q&A. And I left there going, man, I should probably turn this into a book one day. And they were asking real questions. They weren't just being nice or whatever. Like they were asking, they were referencing the Prezi. They were, referencing some ideas that they had about how it worked. And so I left there going, I need to turn this into a book. And, as we all know, 4 or 5 months later, we're all sitting around with nothing to do. And so I was either, fire the staff or start working on the book. And so I started working on the book. And yeah. I mean, that's all I did for a while. It was just the book, and as things started back up, the book kind of took a back seat. But I just decided, you know what, I'm going to lower my head and get it done. And I did. And, I'm glad I did, but it was painful at the end because, I'm back to doing my full-time job while I'm trying to finish the book, which at the end of a book is harder than just getting started. Sure. There's no deadlines when you're getting started. So the end was kind of tough, but yeah, I'm glad I got it out. And I really wrote it for the younger version of me. You know, when I came to town, it took me several years, 6 to 10 years, to kind of put together, oh, this is how the entire thing works. This is how the entire machine works, with distribution and promoters and, you know, booking agents, and how, you know, the whole touring thing works, and sponsors. And like, it took me a while to understand all the terms, and just to put all, you know, everything together to where I could really fully understand, you know, how to help an artist navigate all the way through a career, and be a good manager. So I kind of wrote it for the younger version of me, but also just, you know, that kid that doesn't really know what he wants to do. My son went to Liberty, played football there for 3 years, and he had a friend that called me up and was like, "Hey, can we talk?" And so I was up there for a football game, and we went and hung out for a little bit. I did my Prezi for him, and he was a psych major, and he goes, "You know, I think I want to be a producer." Because, you know, we talk about what a producer does, and he's like, you know, it just kind of pulls everybody together to make the music. Because I think I want to be a producer. So I helped him get an internship that summer, and with a producer in Nashville. So he, you know, came down to Nashville, spent the whole summer, and at the end of the summer, he called me up and he goes, "Man, I think I want to be a manager. Like, I like helping pull everything together, but not just the music. Like, I want to help do, you know, the career and the marketing and the you know, lyric videos and the concept videos and all of it." And so he works for me now. So
Wow.
yeah, it was one of those success stories. But yeah, man, just the younger version of me, the high school kid, the college kid, or someone that just thinks, you know, they've always wanted to, you know, stick their toe in it. So that's kind of how it came about, and that's kind of why I decided to write it.
Yeah. Well, the industry is, I mean, really is pretty young still, from a Christian music industry, and very much exploding in like the mid 2000s, and MercyMe was part of that. And that's kind of where you started to really find success and roots, but also just making and not making it up per se, but certainly finding your way. And so when we look back, I mean, that's only 25, 30 years. There's not a lot of resources like yours out there, outside of just artist training. And so I think a lot of people are going to find a lot of helpful information on how to just be outside of the artist, and also what it takes. I don't think people appreciate what all it takes,
Yeah,
outside of the industry.
I definitely hit people pretty hard a couple times where I'm like, "Hey, if you got anything else you can do, go do that." Chances are, you know, the first time you get hit in the face with, you know, something that's hard or whatever, it's just not for everybody. We were joking around one day. We were trying to come up with a name for the book, and I kind of jokingly threw out, "Hey, why don't we call it like the 182 jobs in the music business?" Because at the end of each chapter, I list, you know, a bunch of jobs that go along with that chapter. And Chase, who works for me, he started counting all the jobs at the end of each chapter. And, you know, like 10 minutes later, he stopped us and he's like, "Hey, there's exactly 182 jobs that you list in the book." And I just threw the number out, just like thinking some high number. I had no idea that's how many jobs we listed until that.
Subconscious trauma right there. That's what that is.
Totally.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So I'm going to be majoring in writing. You're talking about college and stuff. And like, as a writer, I kind of geek out over the technical aspect of books and stuff. So what was the experience like for you writing this book? You seem really intentional with all the chapters, like breaking down all the list of jobs and everything. What was that process like for you?
Well, the way I did it, I hired an actual writer to write the book. So some people call him a ghostwriter. I'm technically the author and he's the writer. That's the way they explained it to me. But Robert Nolan came alongside, and he's done this with a lot of different people. I think I probably provided him more material than most people would. Like, most artists will just get together and talk for a little bit, and he'll do like a 40-day Devo or something for them. But I took a lot of time actually, you know, putting together, you know, not only my talk, but also just elaborating on as much stuff as I could talk about. And we just kind of wrote it all down. And I think I gave him over 500 pages of stuff. And it was literal word vomit, just, I wasn't trying to piece the sentences together. I'd be like, oh yeah, and this, oh yeah, and this, oh yeah, and this, I wasn't trying to make it sound good. Just to make sure that I didn't forget something in a particular section. So he loved it, because he's like, I haven't gotten that much material to piece together. And then he sat down and talked to me about, some stories and, some, just different points in my career. And so he kind of pieced some of those stories in there. But I had all the chapter titles done basically before I even, got in touch with him. But I'll say this, I'm not a book reader. Like I don't snuggle up to a book and, on a rainy day and, just enjoy an afternoon of flipping the pages. My wife is a big reader, but that's just not me. So for me to actually write a book, like that's sort of a, like what, like, record scratch kind of, really Brickell wrote a book,
Yeah.
So it was definitely good to have Robert, there to help me. But, it's satisfying in that I do feel like what I did is a good, solid resource for the next generation. It feels like, my publisher asked me, what's your goal? Like, do you have a goal for how many books you want to sell, or how much money do you want to make, or whatever? And I was like, my goal will be achieved the day this book comes out, just period. Just the fact that I got it all together. I was able to, go through the pains of the end of the book, because at the very end, it really does get monotonous and tedious with the little edits and the, because you might start in one style of writing and then accidentally switch to another style. And they're like, oh, you got to stick with one or the other. So, we kind of think Chicago style is the way to go for you. And I'm just like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And I don't care, So
Right, yeah.
it got to the point where I was, getting an email and I was just like, whatever, just whatever, So it was, but I had a full-time job. Like I'm not retired. I'm still managing, I'm still putting tours together. I'm still, helping artists release records and singles and, helping them get their videos together and all that. So, I mean, I had my full-time job going on. Like if I was retired and this is all I was doing, sitting in my rocker and, yeah, I'd probably enjoyed it a lot more, but I'm jumping on buses and planes and they're emailing me going, hey, we got a deadline in 2 days. And I'm like, you have a deadline in 2 days. I got a tour to
That's right. Well, is author one of the 182 jobs or that you list? Is that, or
I
is
don't
that
think it is.
183?
I don't think.
Right.
And I don't
You
know
can add
exactly
that
how many
number.
jobs we ended up with, but it's somewhere around 182. But
Yeah.
I don't think author's in there.
So did you, is there an audio version of this? And do you,
There will
is
be.
that your,
I mean, I'm
okay.
going to do it. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to try to do it within the next month or so. And
Yeah.
I was thinking about having Trace Atkins do it for me, but
Yeah.
I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and knock it out. But
That's funny.
I would love for my grandkids to be able to actually hear my voice versus somebody else. So
that's cool.
Yeah, and you mentioned Trace Adkins, and I have to ask because, like, I can only imagine it's still one of my favorite movies, and I saw it like 5 times when it came out. What was that like for you, having somebody else portray you in a movie? What was that whole experience like?
when they first brought it up, I was like, "There's no way," like it's just so far out of the realm of possibility when they first like started talking about it that I was just, I didn't even. I didn't come home and tell my wife or anything. I was just like, this isn't going to happen. Just whatever. Matter of fact, I went and hung out with some high school buddies like shortly after we started the process. And that was an 8-year process from the first sit down I had to even start the conversation about a movie until the premiere. So it wasn't like a
Wow.
quick deal. Right. And so, when we got to the point, we were probably 6 years in when I first heard that Trace, they want to try to get Trace to play me. And so I was like, I'd heard so many other things up until that point. I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely not telling anybody that because, I doubt that'll ever happen. But honestly, like when we got on set, we ended up showing up together. Like the first day was both of our first days on set. I missed the first 5 or 6 days that they were shooting. And then he showed up for his first day to shoot, but he wasn't going to shoot till that night. And so they stuck us in director's chairs and gave us headphones to watch, what they were shooting, and then listen to the audio. And then, each scene might last from anywhere from 20 seconds to a minute and a half. And then they'll yell cut. Well, then they reset, and everybody's, the hair and makeup come running in. And like, you sit there for 20 minutes between each take. And so we would just visit, talk, and we both are kind of cut from the same cloth. We both grew up on farms. We both played, sports in college. We both kind of don't care what people think of us. And, after about an hour or two, we ended up going to lunch there on set, and he's like, well, this is going to be easy. He's like, other than I'm a lot better looking than him and he's got a deeper voice than I do, we're pretty much the same guy. I kind of got on the Irwin brothers because I was like, hey, hold up. Like, I like Trace and all, but everybody else gets a 20-year younger version of themselves. And Trace is 6 years older than me. So what gives? And, they're like, haha, first of all, you see while we're doing it. But they also told me, like, I was so young when all that was happening. They're like, if we would just find somebody like that is as old as you were back then, like, it would be a distraction, because most people wouldn't think that, you would be able to accomplish what you did when you were that young. So it all worked. And,
it does go back and speak to the infancy of what all of this was.
Yeah, for sure.
And where the industry was. I think you say early on in the book, as well, as you've seen so much change. I mean, you and I have been around this for 25, 30 years. We've seen so much change in the industry. But you can still write a book with a lot of the principles that you have used since the early days. Why do you think that is, where an entire industry can just shift and change, but a lot of the principles remain the same?
Yeah, and I even deliberately titled the first chapter "Nothing's Changed," because everybody's like, "Oh, this must be about change," and talk about all the different things that have happened in the last 30 to 40 years. But in my view, it's all about hard work. Just gutting it out, gritting it out, taking, don't take no for an answer. And in every business, there's going to be some shifts and some changes and things along the way. And, music has had some pretty significant ones, but at the end of the day, regardless of the changes that have happened in the way you record music or the way you listen to music, I mean, music is more consumed today than it ever has been, because it's more convenient to consume it, and people can consume it exactly the way they want to and what they want to. And so, it's, all those changes are great, but it's still not easy to go, even though you can record in your bedroom and post it on, that night, right? Like, get music out almost immediately. It's still a lot of hard work to, after that is whenever the hard work starts, in my opinion. It's not just record and release.
Yeah, and since you've been in the music industry for so long, like, what have you learned during this time? Because I mean, obviously some things have changed, some things have stayed the same, but what's the biggest takeaway you've had in your 3 decades of working in the industry?
Well, Kevin will know this. Like, we actually talked about it on tour whenever we were doing the Rock and Worship Roadshow together. And I just said, hey man, be sure to be a good hang. Well, if you jump on a bus, if whoever you send out here to be a sponsor, to whatever, like, be a good hang. And I have found even more so today than ever before, like, that is, make sure you're helping other people, make sure you're showing up to try to help them accomplish their goals. And, if you can do that, then maybe we'll eventually get around to, they'll help you with your goals and your dreams. But to me, just being able to, because you hang out in music, especially touring, you hang out way more than you play music. You might sound check for 30 minutes to an hour every day. You might play, 60 minutes to an hour and a half if you're the headliner, but that's not a lot compared to the amount of time that you're on the bus, or you're in the, waiting to board a plane, or sharing hotel rooms, or crammed on a bus together, or, I mean, just being a good hang, being able to just be chill and and not always be like, hey, listen to my song, listen to my song, listen to my song. Hey, have you heard my song? Hey, I wrote a new song. I'm writing another song tomorrow. I'm getting together with this guy and that guy. And, you're just like, oh, you just get worn out by people that are just constantly trying to promote themselves or push and also just really be a good hang and support those around you. Like if you can do those two things, like you'll be surprised how much people really want you around. Well, you'll be their first call. Hey, let's get such and such. He's not the best guitar player, but he's a good hang. Like I can assure you, if you're the best guitar player and not a good hang, you will not be the guy on the road, or called to record in the studio or anything. So it's important to know your instrument, yes, but don't wear people out in the process. Think long term. Think long term. Not like this is my only shot. This is my only opportunity. Like, invest in yourself long term. And when you meet somebody, you don't have to get all your words out the very first time you meet them. It might be some producer that's produced a bunch of really cool artists that you've always wanted to meet. Just think, I'm seeing him now. I'm going to see him again in a week or two. I'm going to see him again and, at an award show or whatever. And eventually, I'll be able to get all my words out, but I don't have to get them all out right now. Just think long term. Invest in yourself for long term. Buy equipment that's good long term. Don't buy something that you're like, well, this isn't exactly what I want, but it's it can get the job done now. Like when it comes to your band gear or your whatever, like think long term. Think this is something that you're going to be able to use for a lot of different gigs for many years. Because if you think that way, then you're going to be here for a lot of years.
And kind of on the same note, what advice would you give to independent artists? Because at New Relic today, we work with a lot of independent artists. For somebody who's like trying to break into the music industry, like what's some essential things that they need to know?
Yeah.
Besides like read your book.
Yeah, other than that.
First thing you need to do is read my book. I don't work with independent artists, so my advice might not hit them exactly where they're at, but it's the same thing. Like think long term. All right, have a balanced life, and the pillars, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, all those things. Like spend a little bit of time doing all those things every day, and professionally, like spend time every day working on your craft. What I say in the book, and this works for an independent artist or a signed artist, but honestly, the best thing that I think independent artists, or the biggest mistake independent artists do, is they release music without testing it. And so I'm constantly telling people to write a song and then go sing it live somewhere, get in front of people and test it. And don't set it up. Like don't tell a long story about grandma and her 7 siblings and you wrote this song about each of their whatevers, and don't get people crying before they hear that. Like just write a song, go sing it live. Write a song, go sing it live. And what I've noticed, probably an independent artist more than anything, is they'll write a song that they love, like it means something to them, and they've got to like sing that song every time they perform, because it's just something that just really feeds their soul or whatever, all the terms they use. But if they would just look up and notice that everybody's on their phone and no one cares about that song, and they're killing their career when they sing that song, but they sing it every single show. And I'm just like, I just want to pull my beard out, because I'm like, hey, look up, like realize no one gives a rip about that song. And you can sing that song every night to yourself in your bathroom, staring at yourself in the mirror, but don't ever sing it out in public ever again. And they just don't get that. You know, you got to write a song, go sing it live, and then let the crowd tell you what is good, what they want. And another thing, don't ever name a song until the crowd names it for you. For example, if you write a song called Summertime and you're up there singing it and they come up and go, you know, hey, where's that? Tell me about that song, Sunshine. And what's the name of that song now? Sunshine, not Summertime. So, you know, listen to the audience and listen to the crowd and let them be the ones that kind of help you figure out, you know, what they want. Because if you give the crowd what they want, eventually 10 years down the road, you can give them what you want, and you can eventually play that song that means something to you. But this is an entertainment business. Even on the Christian side, it's still entertainment. And you got to give people what they want before they care about what you want. And another thing, don't get a platform too soon. And what I mean by that is don't come out as a brand new artist, an independent artist, and start talking about, you know, some, you know, nonprofit you want to help, or some, you know, fundraiser you want to do for this one organization that means a lot to you. Like, again, no one cares, because they barely care about you as an artist. And, you know, a lot of people call themselves artists that have never written a song, or have never performed a song that isn't a cover song, and they call themselves artists. In my opinion, you're not an artist until you've written a song, or someone has written a song specifically for you and given you permission to kind of own that song as your own, and it's not really out there for other people. But until then, you're a worship leader or a cover band, and that's great. You know, if that's what God's called you to do, and that's what you're out there trying to accomplish. But, you know, don't try to claim that you're an artist until, you know, you put in the work and you've written some songs that people like, and you can do a 20-30 minute set without people picking up their phone every song trying to figure out, you know, where they're going as soon as this is over, because they're bored to tears.
That answer is why I love you, Scott.
Is that too harsh? Is that
No, it's not too harsh. I think but I mean, I think what I hear you saying is the same thing you were saying before with the earlier Q&A, and that's invest in others first. And as an artist, you have to do that with your audience as much as you do with the person backstage. And I think that is brilliant. I don't think a lot of creators look at their audience as someone to serve. I think they're there to serve the artist. They're there to buy the ticket and stream the song and buy the merch. And it's totally flipped. And so if I can de-harsh your answer a little bit, if I may, I do hear that. I do hear, you know, the audience is there in front of you, serve them first, and then they will take care of you.
Yeah.
It's good.
Soften up Brickell. I like it. You need to be my filter on all these.
And then what makes a good song? Because you're talking about how, you know, some people will just be bored to tears of the song. What makes a good song? Like, does it have to do with the melody, the lyrics? What composes a good song?
If I knew that,
before you answer
right now.
If you knew that, yeah. I mean, before you answer that, Scott, I do want to say you've worked with some incredible artists. Like, I mean, through there's a page and a half of bullets of artists that you have worked with. And so you have certainly been around a lot of good songs in your career. But yeah, that's a good question and an honest answer. If you knew, you just
I really don't know. And if you come to Nashville and go to a record label, like, none of us know. Like, you know, we really don't. And part of that is, you know, we just hear so many songs that it's you know, it makes you dizzy some days of the number of songs you hear. And honestly, to me, I never know until I go hear a song and watch the crowd's reaction. And, you know, if they put their phone down and they look up and they lean in, and after the song's over, they go to the merch table and buy a t-shirt. Like, that's another good indication of whether there's, you know, songs that people like. They vote at the merch table. I see it every night. And, you know, you need to be diligent with, you know, the kind of designs you do as, you know, for merch and your logos and your brand and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, there's some intentionality to a hit song. There's, you know, some producers feel like they have it figured out to some degree, you know, because you'll see the same couple producers, you know, are producing all the songs at the top of the charts, but that usually doesn't last long. Usually it kind of, they'll run a couple years and then it'll kind of flip. So, you know, there's no real formula for it. There's no, you know, great filter to run all the songs through that everybody goes, okay, well, you know, that's, as long as it does this and it's going to be a great song. A lot of labels and record label or radio stations, they'll test songs before they'll decide to play them on the radio station, or even push it out to a radio station and release it as a single as an artist or a label. And you know, they might send 2 or 3 songs to be tested, and the songs come back with, you know, the one song that everybody thought was the third song all of a sudden is the first song after testing. And so it's just, you know, there's no great way to, you know, figure it out. There's no crystal ball. It's just, you know, again, write a song, go sing it live. And the crowd, the taste change a little bit. You know, there might be, you know, we do have 4 seasons, and, you know, usually in the summertime you want to hear something kind of windows down, you know, top down, convertible, kind of upbeat song, right? And maybe in the fall you might want to hear something a little bit more laid back or worshipful or whatever. Spring, you want to hear, you know, start hearing that, you know, little extra beat coming along or something. So there is some strategy going into when to release a song, etc. But man, you know, if someone thinks they can answer that question, you know, they can't.
Yeah. Well, Grace, I know we don't want to keep you too long, Scott, but I do have one last question. But Grace, I'll let you swing one more Scott's way if you have it.
All right, yeah, I do. So you mentioned the merch table, which made me think back to one of your chapters about the fans, which was cracking me up because you talked about the super fan and the casual fan and everything. Just sort of a fun question. What are some like crazy fan stories you've heard or been involved with?
Oh, wow. I think probably the most recent, we have MercyMe has a fan, Joey Tran, and Joey has been to 100 and I think 11 or 12 shows in the last probably, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years.
Wow.
And he is just the, you know, ball of energy, and he comes in, and, you know, sometimes he'll dress up and, you know, have some theme going to his outfit, and sometimes he just, you know, is casual. Sometimes he'll come to a show and just hang out at the merch table and just, you know, visit and catch up to, you know, all of us as we're walking around or whatever. But yeah, he loves Christian music. He's been for King and Country shows, Carrie Underwood shows, Reba McEntire shows. Like he is a music connoisseur. And he's even done dance moves to some of our songs before, and choreographed some dance moves and done wardrobe changes and all kinds of stuff. So he's a fun guy to bump into every once in a while. Now, I will say this: I would probably be annoyed by Joey if I was sitting next to him or behind him, because when he starts doing all of his dances, he gets a little, you know, the arms start swinging, and, you know, I probably would punch him in the throat at some point. But that Joey is what I would call a super fan for sure.
It's great. Wow. Yeah, I saw him at a concert in Vegas. Lauren Daigle invited him on stage, and he did like the splits on stage. It was very impressive.
So you know Joey, you know who I'm talking about. Yeah.
There you go.
Great guy.
We got to get him on and interview him. That'd be fun.
Oh, he would do it. Trust me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Scott, I know you've managed MercyMe for a while. You've been in this. That was kind of your start. And so Bart has talked a lot about not continuing, and he's had a couple of times in his career where he really thought, this is it and we're going to stop and I just don't got anything else in me. And then something just inspired him to keep going. The race to retirement, Bart Millard or you, who's it going to be first?
I bet you we cross the finish line together. I bet that's probably something that happens. I mean, honestly, Bart loves what he does. He does get worn out sometimes when we're on tour. I get worn out when I'm on tour. I'm like, what am I doing? You know? But at the same time, you know, every time I meet a new artist, I'm like, I can help this person, or I can introduce this person, or I can, you know what I mean? And so I don't know that I'll ever retire. I did bump into Eddie DeGarmo last night at a wedding, and he retired a couple years ago. And sure enough, he's doing exactly what I thought he was doing. He's consulting for this guy and helping this artist, you know, renegotiate their contract. And so, I mean, as much as you know, retirement could be in the future, I just think I'll always want to, you know, be a part in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
That's great. Well, I mean this truly, Scott. As long as you're around, this industry is better for it. And thank you for your years of dedication, and then also thank you for just investing what you have learned into the rest of us and into the next generation. Very kind of you to take that time and talk to us a little bit. The book's called The Business Behind the Song: Navigating a Career in the Music Industry, and it's out now, so you can get it on Amazon or wherever else you buy books. And the smooth, silky audio version shall be coming very soon.